So clinically AI, capital C, capital A, capital I, 2026.
Did everyone get the Wi-Fi? If you need it, we can repeat it again. You good? Okay.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thanks for your time. Pleasure to be in front of you at a show I've been working on for quite some time, really. I've been playing with agents and building stuff for about 3 years now. And I have a company called NetShow, and we're able to create agents, quick agents, phone agents. And I've been working on that, trying to always have the vision of, some kind of a more automation to it, because when you start getting into making the agents and doing all the pieces, it just seemed like I'm just missing something. And that's really having it so it can be more agentic. So it can follow along, it can really help you in your business. It can think for itself in a sense as far as your marketing and really kind of run itself, be an AI native business. And that's kind of been my focus for a while now. And in doing that over the years, it just wasn't possible. So now since Opus kind of came out and the models started getting a lot stronger, a lot of the things that I was envisioning that I want to build for consumers, small businesses, where they can kind of really utilize AI and more advanced agentic AI. Because right now people are just chatting on chatbots and not really getting the power that's capable of tapping into. So for people to start tapping into that, we've got to start, or the way I'm doing it and the way I'm sure you're also thinking about it, is how do you really kind of get agentic automations to consumers and kind of let them be able to do it themselves. Because if you're going to just wait for somebody to knock on your door at your business, or you're a busy mom or dad and you want to try to get some assistance on your calendar and all this stuff we're have in front of us, we all kind of need some help. So to be able to give people access to AI and agentic AI we're all going to have to work harder to give people the tools to do that. So that's kind of why I started doing this AI Agentic Business Generator and banging on it, kind of seeing how can I package it well so I can offer it to consumers and businesses. So this is a framework that I've made, and I'm going to run through it right now. That way you can see the possibilities, and maybe you can kind of think of what you've been working on and how you can kind of level it up to maybe have it more capable of utilizing more of the tool sets that are out there. So what I'm just going to show is something where if I was marketing online and somebody says, yeah, I want to do my business, and SEO guy is just not getting it, and how can I do something? So I'm just going to run through it. It's pretty quick how fast the models can create. And in creating, I have my flow. So I just started working on it and go, okay, I got to put these pieces together. So these are tools that my agents and the code can utilize as far as tapping into databases, be more agentic. So when you say, hey, I got this idea, I need this assistant, I can go ahead and just say it. Say what you want, give it intent, and it'll start doing it. So I kind of built this out where you put your information in, and it kind of just goes through the whole deal where it builds your agents and eventually gets into embodied. So I just want to kind of show you that in the flow. But here, I'm just going to choose a model. We could choose any of the model, but I'm going to go ahead and do Opus, and I'm just going to put my information in. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure that's all good. Domain. So you can put your socials in, give it a name, you save it. So now you get to this point now where, gosh, I don't know what I want to make. I want to make more money. I'm at home, or I have this great idea, or I just, I already know what I want to build. I want to just put my idea, and I got my description. I've been working on it for a while. But if you're just not sure what to do, then you can kind of just get some help. So I'm going to launch. Now, this is all real scripts running. So I'm going to go ahead and use Gemini Flash since we're want to make sure we get things done. So I was talking to my daughter, and she goes, Dad, just do a donut shop or whatever. So that's what I'm going to do here real quick. And then who's this for? And it'll give you up to 50 ideas. I'm just going to do 5 really quick. But I'm trying to make this so it's really easy for anybody to do and fill out. I'm still working on it. And I'll give it some additional. So I'm going to go ahead and hit, I need some ideas. So I'm going to select that. And this is the prompt that just built. And now it's hitting Gemini 3.5 Flash. And it's going to help me with some ideas just because I just been thinking about donuts. This is what I want to do. It can be anything though. It can be you're a dry cleaner business and you need websites. I need agents. I need call centers. I need all this stuff. And what are you really going to do on trying to piece that all together? And so all of a sudden now you say, oh, okay, I got some ideas now, kind of more broken down what I want to do. And if you want to say, okay, I like the way this one sounds, you can hit validate. And when you validate it, it kind of puts in your information and kind of helps you with your validation of what you want to do. And you can kind of ask you some basic questions of what else you want to do on it. Let's see if I can get it going here. Okay. So you had your idea, whatever it was, it kind of helped you figure it out. Now you're going to validate it, and it's going to piece that together for you. Each one of these take about 30 seconds to do on the model, but the whole idea is you thought about it, you ran it a few times, and before you're really going to send it out and build all your agents, build your websites, your landing pages, micro pages. I mean, it can really do amazing things what it can build and generate for you as far as giving you a footprint, unlike not really too many are going to do. So now it kind of gave me a 3.25, and I can kind of go in here and put, more information, kind of build it up. But if you like what this said, you say, okay, I like how I'm looking at my business and how I want to do it, you can go to build it. Then when you build it, you have your idea. It's all been broken down here. And here's my information. It's saved over. And I can choose my model. I'll just leave it at that. But here you got your modules. If you want to build an application, you can do that. If you want to make some front-end agents, we'll just do a web agent. We could do a call center. So all of a sudden you make this donut shop and you can do an outbound call center. You click on that. It'll make your agent. It'll help you with your scripts. So, it's really kind of an agentic building structure. And it goes down to all kinds of different components that you can kind of add in. And then you can also you start building the code for embodied robots and other pieces into that. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a web agent really quick. If you want to throw it on GitHub, you can get your access code. Throw all this code on GitHub. You can choose your payment method, Stripe, we'll go with that. And then now there's my total. So if I hit go and process it, and it'll do my credit card thing I have in there. It's like a sample card. So it's processing. So after it processes, it's going to go ahead and start building. So this could have started building your website. It could have started building all the different modules. Now you're probably going, okay, but how do you really, what's the deal with this? So there's skills, there's plugins, there's MCPs. So in this admin area, I can add different steps and delete them and pause them. So like for this validator, I have it on my code. I choose my LLM, chose my LLM. I'm doing king mode. There's some other advanced components you can do. So if I was going to run and build the application like that, I can go ahead and do a Ralph, which is like a loop. And so I would only do those high-end kind of capabilities on if I'm building an application or a website or something like that. So you can really kind of configure these in different ways. Now what's neat about it as well, you can add in different in your skills. So if you expand this, you can see these are all the skills that are, when you run that prompt, the agent has MCPs, all the skills to really do agentic work. So it's an easy word to say, but put it in practice is you got to put the pieces in line. And everybody can do this to make these higher end agents to really pop out websites and applications. I know you've probably done some vibe coding, but when you start putting it together in an application you want to sell, you can really tighten it up and give unbelievable power to your abilities, but also give the power to the mom, the dad, the kid, the guy who's doing dry cleaning. He just doesn't have the dough to have agents over here, agents over there, legal agents and marketing agents, and then what the heck are you going to do when Google is just doing, agents are buying all your products. Nobody's really going to your website. You're logging in, saying, where the heck's all my traffic? So if these people, these small businesses, and we all don't get really on it and start utilizing agents like doing our lives and benefit, then it's going to be a problem. So if I go to NetShow right now, refresh here, I guess. And these are different agents that my system builds and things, but this agent here is almost done. So probably like another 30 seconds, this agent will be completed. But now this agent you can throw on your website. It can talk to people on your website. It can sell them. It can do a lot of amazing things just as a web agent. But like I said, in here, we also have phone agents. So if you came in here and you wanted a phone agent, then you can make a phone agent. And it has all the capabilities and everything there. So this high-end phone agent that's just connect with Twilio, gives you your phone number. All of a sudden you're not answering your phone any longer at your business. You're saying, oh my gosh, I just built a phone agent and a call center. I got a web agent. I got legal agents. It's amazing when I all was at my fingertips. And what I had to put in is an intent and a description of my intent. It gets down to, well, I don't need to know code. I don't even know how to vibe code. I just need to know how to fill out a couple of forms. Now, if we go back here.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
3 more minutes.
Perfect. So if you go back here, and probably working now. Oh, we'll see if I got 1 more minute to go. Let's see here. So this is a fresh agent here. So in here, you could go ahead and connect. And then use the mic. Hello, what do you do?
Morning, neighbor. Daisy here, subscription maestro. Picture this. I cook up neighborhood donut subscriptions that rise like a perfect sourdough.
What do you do for a living?
I help home bakeries build out donut subscription menus, craft anchor pricing, and run smooth Saturday delivery routes.
I'm Dana Alice. I help small
Now I can't hear yourself.
Oh, I hear you loud and clear.
Yeah. So anyways, it gets into, we just had an idea, and we went ahead and built a web agent that can really help you out. So when it gets into going into building other phone agents, legal agents, a founder agent to help you find VCs, or we're getting ready for your website to be integrated. So we build the brain, we build all the assets, really high level when we do deep research and everything for your business from your just an intent. It really kind of packages it all together. But the neat thing is to be able to come in here and start dropping it in, little robots that we'll be able to buy this year. It doesn't need to be the $50,000 humanoid, but they're going to be pretty impressive how traveling around the house and have the intelligence of the best employee you have, or somebody that can really assist you in your life. And that is just from now. Anybody, a consumer, can utilize an agentic framework builder that we built, and for your business or personal needs, it's a whole stack of opportunity for that individual. Thank you.
All right. Hey there, thank you.
Thank you. I know. Totally.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
Is Eli in the room?
Yep.
Awesome. Feel free to take the stage.
Great.
Hey everyone.
And don't forget folks, there's tacos downstairs.
Yeah, we'll see if I can connect to it.
put it in your Yelp review.
Awesome. Well, I am very, very glad to have everybody here. It's definitely really humbling to have so many brilliant minds in one room. I'm pretty sure this is the most intelligence that's been in this upstairs office for a very long time. So, so really appreciate everybody coming here. My name is Eli, CTO and Co-Founder of Clinically AI. Ross told you all about our business previously downstairs. And what I'm going to showcase today isn't exactly the things that we do in our business, but it is something that I built on the side to help build the business. Because I think this is going to be a little bit more valuable for all of you. And the lessons that I've learned in building an AI coding agent and what works best for communicating with AI in terms of input structures, tools that it has available, etc. So the way that I've structured this, and this is something that I built about 7-8 months ago, continuously improving on and kind of maintaining here. But what I've built is an agent that connects with Slack. So it has 3 main layers to it. So there's 3 agents. There's a project manager, an engineer, and a diff agent. And the project manager is very high level, understands the business, understands your goals, is meant to be a communication layer between you and the end result. The engineer is something that the project manager agent can actually communicate with, go and spin up tasks for it to do, and it comes back to the project manager agent and communicates a little bit there. Now the diff agent, I like to call this the implementation agent. This is for actually implementing code changes. So the engineer agent doesn't manually write all of the code. It actually directs the code, gives code snippets, and then gives the implementation agent the instructions on how to implement. So the architecture looks a little bit like this, where the user interacts with Slack, with the project manager, responds, asks you questions about your goals, what you're trying to accomplish. It has access to your Jira, your GitHub, and then the engineer agent that it can spin off of has access to its own local file system to clone repos and whatnot. So within this flow, there's really a main request, plan, build, and deliver flow. So the user sends the message, project manager creates a list of tasks to kind of get to that end goal, and then the engineer writes the code. There could actually be multiple engineers that the project manager spins off, but it'll go and complete the code, create the PRs that are necessary, and then submit those back to the user. My favorite part about this, and one of the pain points that I've had using Cursor, which I'm actually using right now, and some other agents for code, is that it doesn't really solve the problem of if you have 18 different repositories and you have one thing that you want to do across all 18, it's really difficult to go and spin up a pull request for every single repo that you want to change, right? So having this multi-engineer architecture where we can go and make all these changes in parallel is actually super useful, and it just gives you a list of PRs afterwards. So the project manager has access to a few tool sets. So some connecting to Jira, some connecting to GitHub, Slack, and then one main tool call to delegate a task to the engineer. And it can call this multiple times, it can call it in parallel, but it's required to give the engineer very detailed instructions in a very structured way. And the engineer that's spun off of this agent has the ability to read files, write code, run tests that are local to the repo, and commit changes, and then create a pull request after. So this is kind of the whole workflow here. I don't know how well you can see this, but see if I can zoom in a little bit. Essentially, the user interacts with Slack, pinging the agent. Project manager gets the requests. It can create a ticket or work off of an existing ticket. Communicates with the engineer, can spin up multiple of these, and then the engineer goes in a loop of writing code, testing it, looking for errors, fixing those errors, and then committing those changes. Then finally it goes into GitHub, and then it comes all the way back to the user. All right, so that's the communication flow. This is probably the most important part here, and this is where I've learned the most lessons in kind of building this. So with AI and agents, it took me a very long time to understand what the best communication method would be for structuring text inputs and outputs to AI. And I think that's really what can make or break an agent, is how you structure text to it. Not only prompts and how you structure your inputs, but how you give it data and receive data to actually make it do real world things. So most of the tools that we've provided here, I don't use MCP. These are all local tool calls. So I basically provide it, name of the tool, description, properties. So these are the inputs that it can give to the tool, and a function that actually implements the changes. And this is all built in Node.js. And the output formats can really vary. And this is really where I can kind of get into the weeds and talk about this for hours. But with agents, you really need to be very cautious of the context window, and understand that when it goes and builds things, it needs to be very surgical and very precise when it goes and does that. So when the engineer agent reads files, all of the text comes structured like this, where it numbers each line exactly like this. And the reason is for a couple reasons. Before I get into that, also what the agent can do is call certain lines of that code. So if it only wants to see lines like 51 and 52, it would appear like this. Or giving the agent context about how many lines are above and how many lines are below that file. If it needs more information, it can call that file specifically with more lines of code. Or if the file is small enough, it can actually just read the entire file. So the reason this matters is really for editing and for linting. So every single time the AI reads a file, it will also get a list of any lint errors or TypeScript errors or whatever that are in the file. And you'll probably know that those are line numbered, right? So for the AI to really understand how to fix that, it needs to know what lines correspond to which numbers, right? So that's one reason we structure it this way. Another reason is that when it goes in and edits the file, it could actually specify certain line numbers to change, and also a text snippet to tell the implementation agent whether to make this change in one spot or multiple spots. And that's actually what makes this hyper optimized, because usually with most agents, when it goes in and edits a file, it'll go through and rewrite the entire thing, which is not great for the context window. Now, and that's specifically, let's say you had one string that was in 5 places in a file, all throughout the file, and it was like 200 lines, for instance. The agent would have to replace the entire thing to replace that one string in multiple instances. With the implementation agent, the engineer can actually say, hey, for this string all throughout this file, replace it, right? And that's a much smaller request, much smaller piece of information to put in the context window than rewriting the entire file. So that's why we number it. The agents can also list file structures. If you have really, really deeply nested file structures in your repo, it'll nest them all like this. Turns out, I've tried a few different methods to get AI to understand nested structures. Just the simple human readable structure like this tends to be the most accurate, most reliable for AI, according to my experience. Now, the story differs a little bit when it comes to retrieving information from other sources. Like, for example, grabbing a Jira ticket, right? Most APIs, if you hook it up to an MCP or a tool call, will return a JSON object of whatever that web object is. Now, that's totally fine. However, you're using a lot of tokens when you do that. Every single quote, every single character within the property is a token. And AI doesn't necessarily need to know that that's JSON. So what I really like doing, and I do this for our product as well, is really give it information in XML structure. And in my experience, it actually receives that a lot better, and it saves a lot of tokens. So essentially, for the big objects, we structure it in XML. For the properties, we do it like this. For the properties that can be multi-line, I like putting them in new XML structures. And AI can really understand very well like what properties correspond to what with minimal tokens in the output. And this is the search result. So the AI can also search through files for a specific string or specific keywords with regexes, whatever. We kind of do a hybrid format for this. So we have the main files that come back, the path of that file in XML format, then a preview of the text where that search string lives. And the reason I really like this approach is it's not only telling the AI, hey, here's the file where this lives, but actually here's the context around that string. So it gives the AI the superpower of knowing exactly where that lives, no matter how many search results are returned. Then it can actually go in and surgically see more of the file if it needs to, just by calling this path.
Okay,
All right.
I'll take a picture of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Can you send us this file?
Yeah, for sure.
Did you give out your Venmo?
I wasn't joking.
Yeah. So one challenge that I also faced when having AI go in and edit all these files was sometimes that it didn't know what it was editing. Right? It would go and make a change, and it would forget that it made that change, which I kind of understood to a certain degree because it would just tell the implementation agent, "Hey, go do this thing." It didn't know that it did it in this other spot as well. So what I like doing here is having the implementation agent actually return a diff of the old code versus the new code back to the main engineer agent. And this is just in regular like GitHub diff format with these little comments here. And this is great because if it accidentally makes a change, it can actually go through and revert that change. And it knows exactly what it's editing in a very compressed context, right? We're not returning the entire file and giving it to AI. We're actually just showing it what changed and then giving it back. Some other minor things here, like when the AI goes and does things that don't necessarily return an output, we want to let it know that it successfully did that or errored in some kind of context. What I like doing is including the little caret here as a message, and then whether the file created or errored, whatever, it gives it a kind of a command line feel to it, and the AI seems to respect that. One problem I had here initially when I was just returning text from these tool calls was it would think that it would be extra instructions for it to go and do. Right? It'd be like error, okay, let me fix this error. No, it was an error with the tool call, not with the code, right? So it gives it a little bit more context around the tool call. Here's an example of what the input structure would look like for like a read file tool call. Provides a start line, end line. These are, I believe, optional. And this is what an example output would look like for that. So it has context of the numbers on the side, has context of how many lines are left in the code. And this is actually very condensed in terms of tokens. And this is what it looks like when it edits a file as well. So this is given to the implementation agent. So it specifies a file path, natural language instructions, and a snippet of edited code. And it does not provide line numbers in this request because all of that is within the natural instructions that it gives to the implementation agent. You'll notice like this amount of code here is very, very small, very token efficient, and this will essentially get the job done because we're doing all the heavy lifting with file editing with the implementation agent. So, and yeah, this is the example output of what it would return, just the added lines here. So all this to say, this was kind of built in the idea of having a very, very context efficient main engineer agent where it can go and do very, very long running tasks without running out of memory, which was especially very useful during the early days of AI when we didn't have a million context window. So this is an example of kind of retrieving a JIRA ticket. Just provides a key. You could also list JIRA tickets as well. This is just a little snippet that I made for why the structured output matters, but I think I covered most of this. And yeah, that's a quick rundown on the coding side of this. Now, I've built a couple other agents here, one for code reviews, which my team uses quite frequently. One for, I believe, one for reviewing a pull request that's actions have failed because of a workflow failure. It'll actually go through, read the pull request, read the logs from GitHub, and understand why a workflow failed and suggest updates to the user. And one piece of this that I actually forgot to cover, which is pretty neat, is when it goes and makes its own pull request, if there are any errors or any workflow failures, it will actually recall that engineer agent with the context of that workflow failure to get it to go and fix those issues. Which I've seen a couple times. It'll go and build it about 3 times and then actually get it perfect, which is really nice to see. I'll show you some examples. Everything here is actually logged to Slack, so you can see it's called Eli Bot. It logs all of its thinking, all of its tool calls here to Slack, so it's super easy to debug. So you can see a thinking here, goes in and finds an error in one of the files and gets the file. So this is one of the workflow runs for determining what's wrong with a pull request workflow. You can see the text structure here. It's real code. And it shows you all the tool calls and like how it's returning data. It took me a very long time to build out this workflow in the most optimal way that I could think of. I really think that I found a good structure for how to communicate with AI agents that works in a very context condensed manner. And I hope at least that helped some of you with any issues that you might have encountered that might be similar, right? Let me see if I can find logs for, yeah, so this is for reviewing a pull request. So that's the prompt that it gets. That's the input. Starts thinking, calls a ticket to understand what the ticket was about, goes and calls the file straight from GitHub, and then creates a review. So you can see this is costing me quite a bit because I'm running everything on Claude Opus 4.5, which is pretty expensive. But yeah, how much time do I have left?
3 hours.
I can honestly talk about this for forever.
Maybe we
but it won't
roll
take
into
too much
questions a
time.
little bit.
Yeah. Let's roll into questions.
Have you ever tried using like the AST to make the abstract industry to make the code snippet more effective, so that you can like actually target specific nodes on a syntax tree?
No, I've not tried that. But that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, you can. One thing I played around with is like representing your code base as a graph, and then you can like attach, like I'm an agent working on this node, and it's only looking at that node.
That's really cool. Yeah, no, I haven't heard of that, but that's really cool.
You had mentioned in one of the diagrams about spinning up additional engineers if necessary.
Right.
When you're testing this out, what has been like the sweet spot or the right number? Are fewer better or more better?
It depends on the task. So where this has saved me probably the most time is when there's major changes being made across multiple repos. Because at least the way I've used agents, it doesn't really do really well with that workflow. You'll end up with some agents that make changes one way to one repo, and then they do the same thing but in a different way to another repo. And sometimes you get that misfluency there, which obviously doesn't really affect much in the long term, but if you want your code to be structured a certain way consistently across your repos, it's a little tough. With the amount of context that it's required to actually send to the agents, it makes sure to do all of the actions as consistently as possible across multiple repos. So like there's been cases where I've wanted to make major workflow changes to GitHub files, and I wanted that to go across all of the backend services. And first time I prompted it to go and do that, did it perfectly. So I was super happy with that. Yeah.
So how are you working with this? I think you said you use this in your company now. Does it have access to like a Jira board? Or I guess how do you use it?
Yeah, so it's used through Slack. So we have a channel that we communicate with it through. There's a channel for communicating, a channel for logs, and then I actually keep the prompts in separate other channels, just so I can easily like change it out without having to push the service again. But yeah, we communicate it through through Slack. We could also communicate with it through GitHub as well. So it'll actually listen for like tags for Eli Bot, and you can ask it questions, have it go and make changes on pull requests, whether they're created by it originally or just created by you. So there's a few different methods there.
How often are you finding yourself leveraging this workflow, and when you do on average? what is roughly the expenditure that you're seeing per task, fiscally speaking?
It's expensive, but
Yeah.
my view on it is this probably costs us, I don't know, around $300, $400 a month.
Yeah.
That's totally fine with me. If it's saving me that in my time, totally happy with it. So I don't see it as a huge issue. Some people would, but it's saving me a lot more than $400 worth a month, you know. So that's just how I think about it.
So if you use another AI, would that help you or not, or whatever?
Yeah, personally,
use that one.
yeah, personally, I use a mix of Cursor and this.
Yeah.
For bigger tasks, I'll use Eli Bot, but for Cursor, if I want to be really surgical with specific things, I'll go and use that. Yeah, you had a question.
Have you needed to create multiple layers of separation for your user relative to the end customer? So like, you're not allowing customers to interact directly with
No,
the
this is
project manager.
just for us internally.
So how many layers of escalation before somebody can actually interact with the project manager internally?
Oh, it's pretty much me and my devs.
Got
We're
it.
the only ones that interact with it.
But surely there's an account manager or something. How do they, like that's 2 layers of separation?
Yeah,
Not giving it to the
To
account
be fair,
managers.
every now and then I type something in by accident. So yeah, there's really only one layer, and it's just dumb.
Yeah, it's pretty much just me and my team, but I've had requests to build versions of this for other departments in the business, which I may or may not do depending on the time that I have. But yeah.
And you just wrote the orchestration from scratch?
Yeah, just straight Node.js. I built it on top of something foundationally that we actually use in the company for recursive calling of LLMs and defining tools in a very MCP-like format. Actually, before MCP was a thing, I built that framework, and this is built kind of on top of that. Yeah.
Have you explored any of the orchestration possibilities that aren't like hand-strung? What we'll call it?
You mean like N8N and some other workflows like that? Yeah. I've definitely explored and played around with that. I think before N8N was a thing, Make was, and I have a lot of experience in Make. I don't know if you guys have heard about it, but it's essentially like N8N, but not agent focused. You can have workflows that take in webhooks and do other things. After playing around with that, it was super easy for me to get into N8N, play around with some things. I'm sure that you can get something similar to this working in there. It would probably take a lot of manual effort though, and using potentially other services as well. There's a lot of like fundamental code here in terms of like how do we create a local file system and run lints and run TypeScript locally so that we can actually find issues, files on the fly that I don't think you could do necessarily with N8N.
Yeah.
Unless you use another service for that and just put your code in that service. But yeah, it's been my experience.
Have you tried Devin?
I've not tried Devin.
Yeah, they're pretty good on
What is that?
Devin. They're pretty good on multi editing, like multi rebels and re-architecture requests. So I mean, that seems like pretty sophisticated tool you built.
Thank you.
Before it was launched, I think Devin was launched like a year and a half ago. And you said that you were using it even before.
I've been probably working on this from either 8 to 12 months. I think that was before MCPs were a really large thing, but I might be mistaken.
I told him we need to separate out the IP on this thing.
Yeah.
Are you actually having to do like any context window management, or are the sessions generally short enough?
That's a really good question. So generally the sessions are very short. However, there are cases where if it's a really, really long task, if we put everything in there without summarization, it would run out of context. So what I've done within that foundational framework that I talked about just a second ago, there is a chat history truncation / summarization system to go in and take those tool calls and those chat history, thinking blocks and inputs and outputs, and summarize them in a way that AI can understand, given a really long, chat. right? So it takes those really long outputs, if there are any, and summarizes it in natural language to be about like 50% the size. If it does end up exceeding the context window, which I haven't really seen it do with that system, there is a system to just cut off pieces of the chat window at the end, which I think is kind of the nuclear option, but luckily it hasn't really gotten there. So, yeah.
One more.
Yeah.
When you're writing this like MPC like connector thing situation, how do you make sure that you protect your system from the AI trying to say, hey, now read the password file, and now read this on the home directory, and now publish this on GitHub?
So this is running in Kubernetes, and what it does when it spins up those workflow stations is it spins up an isolated local file system. So it doesn't get like the environment variables or anything like that. Even if it tried to access them like in the system itself, it couldn't. It's an isolated environment. So, and luckily, I do have a bias here, but I think it's a little bit more secure than MCP because it's not hosting something on localhost to go and interact with. It's actually just completely local. So you can't like connect to the internet and try to get into it, for example.
Awesome. Thank you, Eli.
Yeah, thank you.
We're back here.
Go Lions.
Next year. Sorry, year.
Is what he says every year.
Yeah, it's 100% for the last 35 years or whatever. What am I? Am I just bullpen? Yeah, all right, we did it. All right, hi everybody. I'm Matthew, and I'm going to show you. It's either called SidePiece or SidePiece, depending on how business friendly I want to be. In this environment, I will be calling it SidePiece. Okay. So I'm a business professor at University of San Diego, and you actually inspired me to do this talk. I went to yours last time, and I was like, oh man, nice non-technical people can do this, so I got this. So I say I'm a business professor, and one thing I'll give you about being a professor in college is if any of you are ever looking to get users to use your apps, become a business professor, because what you can do is you can bribe them and tell them they are required to use your software if they want to get an A. Okay? User acquisition is paramount. All right. How this came about was I end up producing a lot of content for my classes, and kind of the way I use the chatbot. Okay. Big surprise. But what I found myself doing is I was working on my prompt a lot. Like I was trying to create one specific type of content. I found kind of a format, and I was using that format. And basically what I was doing is I had a Google Doc. I would copy my prompt, I'd put it in, I'd change a couple things, and I'd hit go, and that's how I'd produce something. So I had this Google Doc that had a bunch of different prompts that I would use over and over and over. And moment of epiphany, I was like, this is pretty dumb. Okay, so that's where things started. Where things have kind of gone, and what I'm trying to do is, I think, to me, if you think about, Kathy or Chris that works at State Farm Insurance, they're using this interface to do a bunch of stuff, and I think this is kind of a shitty interface, and I think there should be something better. Okay, so that's kind of, you like that? All right, perfect. So that's what I'm playing with. I know it's a little.
It's your student.
Yeah. So I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you a couple features. Like this thing does more stuff, but this is it. It's a sidebar. It's a Chrome extension. There's a web component to it as well, but it's a Chrome extension. As you can see, it's got like folders. And then these are little, I call them applets. I'm calling this thing like a natural language applet maker or something. I don't really know. So I'm going to do like a couple of little short demos here to give you an idea of how it works. I think I'm on this window, right? Okay, cool. So this is just, all it does is it's taking whatever the prompt is in here and it's putting it in there and it's auto-executing. Okay, so that's all it did. So I clicked that button, right? It just said, tell me a joke about a cat. Wow. They told me a joke about a cat. That's like stage 1, just auto-executes the prompt I put in. All right, stage 2, so I'll click on this little guy here. And what I ended up doing is I actually added kind of an interface forms component. So this is obviously a very simple form, but now I can, if I want to create whatever, I can click a fish and tell me a joke about a fish, puts it in, auto executes. Okay, so again, it's this auto executing kind of format, and then there's sort of like a back end that I'll show you on how to build out kind of a forms-based UI, let's call it. So I'll show you something that's more complex. And I actually, last semester I actually replaced my textbooks with AI, mainly because AI already has all the textbooks, and I'm like, I don't know why you guys are spending $150 on textbooks. Like, we should just ask this thing for free. So it sort of worked, but what I found was, like, if you give a student like unlimited, flexibility, they kind of get lost. So I sort of started creating like curated kind of textbooks. So one of the classes I teach is an information systems class. For you here, it's Excel. And so I've got this little prompt here that you can see I can do drop downs. I've got, long forms. You can actually do like file attachments. You can load files from the web. You can do all sorts of kind of different things. But I can, if I want to learn about whatever your first formula toolkit, you can have them I can have it explain a topic. If I want to get a practice problem, whatever, it pastes it in there. Obviously, there's a lot longer prompt, and it generates that specific content. So again, I'm just basically taking a form, I'm kind of tweaking the prompt based on the inputs of that form, and then executing it. That's kind of it. So let me show you the back end. I'm just making sure I got two more things that I'll show you. So again, this is a practice problem that it created here. So what does that look on the back end? So there's this like applet creator over here, and then these are my saved items. So to create an applet, all I would do is put in a name here, and then that's where I put my instructions, and then I can kind of like choose my background and my icon. But if I show you like what that Excel one looked like, so here's the prompt that actually is creating that textbook, and then you'll see like right here. So I created a little bit. If you guys know what like shortcode is from like bulletin board days, like basically I'm creating kind of like a simple shortcode. So you see that I got these double brackets, and then there's some just logic in here that you put your interface element using natural language, and then the front end basically interprets this and turns it into that form element. Okay, so that's sort of what's happening. So you see I've got different. There's a drop down. This is a drop down for my chapter. I've got the learning goal, which is a radio button. And then there's obviously the rest of the prompt that goes forward. It tells the thing how to actually work. Okay, so that's how these things are built. Two other cool things, or things that I think are cool. I threw in a publishing type thing. So these are actually applets where you can actually extract them out, and they become files that then you can email to people and they can load in. So I can actually publish items from here. And when I was doing that, I was like, oh man, I should make like an applet library. And so I published things, and what's kind of cool about this, I've made this one's called Rug Writer. I know a woman that writes rug content. I know that's weird. But what's kind of cool is I basically can do, so since I can install files, this is hosted on my server. You can kind of host these things anyways, but basically I can do a one-click install on the package, and then on mine, you'll see that it gets installed kind of in my instance. The other thing that's kind of cool on these, I'll have to do this again. I put in there's this little feature here that says auto update. So actually, like you can actually if somebody checks that, I can essentially manage a natural language program on their PC. So where that came from was somebody actually was talking about marketing departments and like, hey, we want consistent copy from person to person. How do you kind of manage that? Well, this is a way where you could actually have this prompt installed on a bunch of computers or a bunch of your employees. If I update it, it kind of pushes out to everybody automatically. let's see, the last thing that I'll show you is this recently came up. There's this little button here that's a link. And that actually allows you to link to specific chat threads. And what's kind of cool about that is it brings in like this memory component, not like real AI memory, like whatever I'm doing AI memory. But so you'll see that I've got a little thing here that I built like an attendance tracker. So I use this actually to track, or I'm going to use this to attract attendance in my classes. And you'll see basically what it did is it first went to a linked thread and then pulled up the interface. So now I can record absences, whatever, Jordan and Taylor weren't there, and so I process it. And basically what it's doing is it obviously knows what I selected. So I selected Jordan and Taylor were absent right here. And what it's doing is it's just looking up in like the previous history of the chat, and then it just updates that with whatever the new information is that I put in. So this kind of linked chat allows you to like run a new function but refer back to the past stuff that you did in like a very simple one-click interface.
So it's just going off the chat history rather than writing a file? Is that what it's doing?
Correct. Everything's in chat. I've thought about files and stuff like that, and to be totally honest, I'm probably not the right person to do that. Some of the things, like, I know when I like talked about this chat, when I put my talk down, one of the things that I find really interesting is thinking about prompt portability. I know a bunch of people have said to me, like, well, what about GPTs and what about gems? And I say, do you like being a customer of ChatGPT for the rest of your life? What I find really interesting about this type of framework is it actually breaks that, and your prompt is now portable, and you can kind of take it wherever you want. And actually, I think that's pretty liberating versus feeling like you're locked into a system. Yeah.
And did you make that in like Cursor, or what did you use?
I made it in the chat window, to be totally honest. Copy paste. Yeah, that's how I work. I'm trying to learn how to use Cursor. I'm not quite at that level.
I'm impressed.
Thank you.
Very cool.
What you said you're teaching business at USD?
Yeah.
Is it mostly undergrads, grads?
All undergrad, yeah.
All
I teach undergrad.
Are
Yeah.
most of your students freshmen? What level?
I teach my applied AI class is junior senior. So I teach. I teach freshman and sophomore at both ends of the spectrum.
This is super tangential, obviously, to your content, but I'm just curious to hear, like, what is the experience that you find your undergrads are having trying to enter the workforce? Is it as hard as some make it sound?
I can't remember who I was talking to before. I've been teaching for 3.5 years. Not totally by choice, to be totally honest. I was running a software agency for a little while through COVID, and basically needed to leave because that was a train wreck. Like, it just was very difficult. And so got into teaching because it was like I need to do something, and my wife told me I needed to do something. I'm both very optimistic and very pessimistic about education at the same time. I feel like my role has changed. I think what my role has changed into is something that I'm more of like an inspirer. I'm placing goals. I'm helping them along, and what I'm asking them to do is essentially self-learn, and like they need to pace themselves. And in some respect, if they're not willing to do that, I can't help them. I think that's I personally think that's maybe always been true, but I'm just really being very explicit about it. So I think the people that like self-learning, I think the sky is the limit. I think the people that require that hand-holding, I don't know what they're going to do, because the education system isn't supporting that type of learning style. Sorry, I know that was a very long
Wait,
answer.
so the students that you get, what are they studying on average? What are they studying?
Well, I teach all business, so they're all studying business. I don't even know what that means necessarily. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of all over they
It's
don't.
a business class. Without
Yeah.
a problem though?
I'm sorry?
Isn't that a problem that can't define itself?
Well, yeah, but I'm not in college.
You can't define what business school is.
But you just said it's self-learning. That is kind of what it is it not?
Right.
That is like business.
Yeah. I just don't know if I'd tell them to go spend $90,000 at USD if that was the case, but whatever.
Is it because in the past, like the only way to get the information was to pay $90,000 to go to college, and yet now information's been democratized, so people can find this information themselves.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I can tell you.
You're helping them focus the information.
I can tell you, I would much rather sell my services to a student direct. The only problem is accreditation. That's literally all you're paying for. Because I make nothing teaching at USD. It all goes to admin and buildings. Like, that doesn't benefit the student, in my opinion. Sorry, I know this is like an education. Yeah.
Back to your thing.
SidePiece. I know you don't want to say it, but you can. You can.
Are you writing all the prompts yourself? Have you experimented with meta prompting?
Dude, okay, so this little app, so I just loaded this thing to pre-install, and it's an app to make apps. It's like the greatest thing ever. And then I got another one that helps you modify your app. So yes, I am writing them all. I'm trying to have people write their own. It is a learning curve, but yeah, 100%. And you can see on this one actually that this one's actually loading in. It loads in my programming guide automatically. So you don't have to like load anything in. So it handles that. Yeah.
Did you have to get an approval from the school to show your app and get the kids to use it? Or just open?
I haven't gotten fired yet.
Nobody said anything?
He forgot to ask.
Nobody's actually ever shown up and looked at me teach, to be totally honest. I don't know if I'm a good teacher or not.
Well, at least you're adapting. I think a lot of people aren't.
Yeah, this is cathartic. Thank you very much.
All right. Awesome. Last but not least, Cameron.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Sorry, I'll be quick. I know everyone's hungry, probably. Let me connect you here. All right. Hey, everyone. My name is Cameron Youngblood. I work for a company called Vercel. We're a late-stage AI cloud startup based out of San Francisco. I'm on a applied AI engineering team in the org, so I'm a software engineer. My team, we basically are automating anything go-to-market, so everything from sales to customer support. We're a small but mighty team of 4 engineers now. We just hired another person, so we're just basically automating a ton of stuff. Recently, we kind of had this thing go viral. Business Insider wrote a piece about us. We trained, this is kind of false, but we had an AI agent that we replaced 10 SDRs with just one SDR. So we whittled that team down. We didn't fire anyone, don't worry. Wasn't part of that. We just shifted them to outbound motions. We're a growing startup, so we actually have the privilege of not firing people right now because we're growing so fast. But today I'm going to show you basically like an open source version that I can show you without leaking any customer data of what we did. So at Vercel, we have a sales form like a lot of companies do, and we get like thousands of just inbound every day because we're a pretty big startup. And so basically we had a team of SDRs that were manually going through those, like reading, researching about the company, about the email, and then creating an email to send off. And so kind of one of the initial projects of our team was we said, okay, well, we can actually like automate this because there's deterministic aspects of it, and then the parts that aren't deterministic, we can just throw it in an LLM and it'll probably do a pretty good job. So I'm gonna kind of show this like demo here, make it a lot bigger than it is. Start up the dev server. Okay, so I guess I have it open. So we've got like a contact sales form, just like a very, very basic one. So I'm going to show you kind of like the flow on the code side. So we've got this form, and then when it submits, it actually goes to a API endpoint. And At Vercel, we recently launched a product called Workflow Dev Kit. It's basically like a durable execution model that is just like really simple. It's open source, works on any TypeScript server, and of course has first-class support on Vercel. So that's kind of like some of this code. But basically, we're just reading the body of the request, we're parsing it with Zod in a safe way so it makes sure it's type safe, and then we're kicking off a workflow. So this workflow is pretty simple. Basically what we're doing is we're first kicking off a small research agent to research the lead based off of the inputs that we're taking. So the business email, the name, the company, and then the message that they give us. So I'm going to kind of show you what that agent looks like. I'm using something called the AI SDK, not to just like shill Vercel, but it's another thing that we created and maintain. And so it's basically like a toolkit for building AI applications with TypeScript. We love TypeScript at Vercel, for better or for worse. And so this is what that's using. So basically you can think of it as just like a tool loop. The abstraction is called tool loop agent in this case. So here I have like a few tools defined. Basically I'm telling this that it's a researcher. We need to find information. This could be super extendable. Like the actual version that we're using at Vercel, we have like a CRM hooked up, Salesforce, Snowflake, our data warehouse. We have a lot of enrichment sources. We have, I'm blanking on some of them, a knowledge base. We have actually a few internal knowledge bases. So basically these vector stores where we're just kind of shoving a ton of data and maintaining. We have an internal tool that we use if anyone's familiar with Waffleizer and these like tech stack analyzing tools. We have our own custom built one that we run in crawl because we're constantly very interested in what companies are using for their tech stacks. So I have a few of these here. Basically what these do is one of them just searches the web with something called Exa. Exa's awesome if you haven't used it. Exa AI, great tool. And then let me actually just start from the top and I can kind of go through these. So the tool, and then another one is just literally fetching the content from the site. Tech stack, this actually just hits this internal API. I would show you what it is, but I don't want to leak anything. And then another tool to search, like we mentioned. And then I have this one tool to basically just like finalize all the information, wrap it up in like a pretty JSON object. And so this is all just kind of like semantics, but it's basically we're just creating all this in type safe way, giving an agent what's called Zod schemas, like a validation library so that it can know how to generate these things. So then that generates, and then what happens next is we actually kick off a step to another LLM called qualify. And this is kind of where the magic happens. It's actually really simple. Again, we're using the AI SDK, something called generate object. We're using more powerful models. I have Haiku here because it's really cheap and fast just for the demo. But basically we've passed the research to the agent, and then we have this qualification schema. This is like really different depending on the business. A very simplified version, but like businesses, depending on how you have it set up, you might have like qualified as a tag for your leads, unqualified, support, follow-up. Spam is probably another good one that I probably should have added here. So basically what we're doing is we're getting this structured schema, it's just like an enum, and telling the agent to output exactly one of these values given the research. And so after that happens, what we're doing is we're actually checking if it's qualified or follow-up. If it is, we're going to write an email. This is just another AI step to like write basically a follow-up email. And then I have this thing called human feedback. This is similar to how we're doing it at Vercel. We are like really heavy users of Slack, as a lot of people are. So I'll show you that in a second. But it sends to Slack and then gives our one SDR at Vercel. She's the one that goes in and she actually can like look at it and she can say like, is this good or bad, etc. So let me show you how it works really fast. I have that running. I'm going to go back to here. I'm just going to put in
single SDR.
Yeah, for all of Vercel.
For all of inbound. We have a lot of other
thousands of inbound hits.
Yeah, we have. It's pretty gnarly. We didn't initially have one. We had a lot more, but then we whittled that team down, and then now they all focus on outbound. I'm just going to say SSO and SAML. I'm interested in SSO and SAML features. We'll submit that. I actually have this here, so the logs are kind of muddy, but you can see I have it logging anytime a tool is called. So it hits search 3 times, so it's kicking off 3 different searches. It's using the tech stack analysis, fetching the URL. I don't know why it fetched it twice. AI is kind of dumb sometimes. And then searched again. So we'll just kind of let it cook for a second. While that's going, I'm going to show you something else, especially if this takes a second. The real like, kind of sauce of all of this, and Eli talked a little bit about this, and I can't remember your co-founder's name, but for your company, I think it's really cool you guys talked about how like you need guardrails. Like we definitely need a lot of guardrails for this because otherwise it's just going to be like terrible. So the way that we approach that is something called evals. And I don't know everyone's familiarity with evals, but basically this is like a really simple explanation of what an eval is. With an eval for an LLM, you have a starting state. So in our case, that's like lead info. If it's a coding agent, you might have like a code base. And then you have a task, plain language, basically like for us, it's qualify this, dequalify this. For maybe like a AI agent that's coding, it'd be like create me like a React form. And then you have acceptance tests. So these can be like deterministic or like LLM as a judge. And it's basically like a test condition. So you can think of it as like just a unit test where you're like checking, it could be a binary value. It could be like an LLM as a judge, like a Lichtenstein distance, semantic, whatever. And then saying like if it passed or failed. So I'm going to come back to this and then see if it did. So yeah, so everything like ran. And then it kind of gave us like a quick little research snippet. If I come in here to Slack, you'll see, can I make this bigger? Yeah, there we go. That didn't help. Okay, so you can see the email that it wrote. It's not bad. Hey Cameron, I noticed you've been exploring SSO and SAML features of Vercel. Given your recent expansion of SAML SSO to Pro Teams, I thought this might be relevant. And then it gives kind of like the reason. So it says it's qualified, and then I have this little like truncated research thing. So nice, I work at Vercel, blah, 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 blah. So it has like all this research. So that's awesome. Yeah, it's like, that's great. I can actually in here click approve. I think this might be broken. Okay, there we go. So in this case, if I approved, you see the send email, we could just go ahead and kick off the email. That's kind of what happens at Vercel. It's a little bit more to it. But back to the eval piece, because that kind of ties into the whole email sending too. So let's say that the email is actually like really bad. Basically what we'd want our SDR to do at Vercel is she would reject it, and then we have like a little pop-up, and she can give a reason why, and then basically tell us why the email copy was bad. She can also tell us if the qualification is bad. So one example that we had initially with this exact agent at Vercel is we had the case where we had an inbound form come through, and the email was elon@x.com. And it's like, obviously, Elon Musk is not going to go through our contact sales form and then say, like, he wants to buy Vercel. I mean, he could. It's, like, kind of on brand with him, honestly. But, like, we're like, there's no way that this is Elon Musk. So we were basically like, okay, we have to figure out a way to tell the agent, like, don't believe, like, ridiculous requests, right? It's kind of hard because AI's mind is like, why? Like, X.com is like a perfect customer for Vercel. They're going to pay you like a ton of money. And so the way that we did that was we had to like adjust the prompts, and then we had basically it create an eval. So like this test case, right? So I actually have this example here. I'm using in this library called EvalLite. It's one that we use for some projects at Vercel. We also use this platform called BrainTrust if you're interested in looking more into evals. But basically what I have here is just like a mock of testing like this specific case. So what we could do is we can create this whole data set. I have it commented out, but we could like run an eval against all of these. And what we want to do is we have the input data. So we have it saved. These are basically like past data points is what you can think of, like a prepared data set. And then we have the expected value. So for this, we have Elon Musk, X Inc. We want to host X on Vercel and use the AI gateway. I know that it's unqualified, so I'm going to label it as this, and then we can run the eval against it. And then what it's going to do is it's going to run, this is basically just the same process that goes through for the actual agent. So you kind of want to have like the same process happen in your test environment when you're running the evals. And then what I'm doing is I'm creating a custom score. This is a really simple one. If the category is right, I come back with a 1, 100% you did it. If not, 0, you suck, like failed. So that's exactly what it is. I'm going to run, I think it's this set up locally. This is going to go through and it's going to just run basically that same thing with Elon Musk. So we'll see what happens. It's calling the tool, tech stack analysis.
As it's running, question for you.
Yeah.
So this is like the initial inbound top of the funnel.
Mm-hmm.
What is the tool doing? Anything else outside of just top of the funnel initial request?
This one is completely scoped to inbound. Yeah, so we have other
just one single email top of the funnel, eval, one email. Anything else?
Do you mean like, do we have just one eval or?
No, like after you send this one email, right?
Yeah.
Then if there's a response or if there's no response, is this tool done? That's all the tool's doing?
No, that's a great question. So we're getting to the point where this is kind of like almost more self-healing. Okay, here, really fast. So now you can see unqualified. So eval light is sick, great tool, open source. It's just a local test runner. And they give this cool UI. We expected it to be unqualified. The AI thought it was qualified, and then it gave the reason. So like the way that we manage this at Vercel is we have versioned prompts. So the prompts live in code because then we can connect it with Git and have like this version history. And then we can basically make a change, run it against the evals, and then kind of just see. And we have this like basically this whole data set of evals, and we can run it and then continue to test the score. It's also great for us because like a new model comes out and we're like, is this model actually better at evaluating all of our past test cases? Sometimes it's not. Like the jump from like 4.5 to 5 for GPT, we actually did better on 4.5, so we stuck with it a while until like 5.2 came out or whatever. But back to your question, yeah, so like we do a lot of kind of like cleanup of the data set. And then there's a lot of tuning that goes on with our SDR. So like a lot of it is kind of like vibes where like she would see an email come through and she's like, this sucks. Like I know what a good email is. And then she would basically give us feedback. We kind of bake it back into here. We're almost to the point where we can kind of almost like self-heal, meaning that like a lead comes through, if she says this sucks, especially for the qualification piece, like this should be like, this is falsely labeled. We can like label it and then almost like kick off a PR to like almost self-heal, right? Because then you can do like, you can create an agent in like a sandbox and then open a PR, test it against evals. If it improves, great. If it doesn't, like try again. And then the email copy is like a lot more complicated for our evals. We're not just using these like strict binary tests. It's more like we're using like, we have a good email and then, you know, eval or LLM is a judge. Like, is this email like similar to this copy, like matching the style?
So it's
that's
not like a framework. It's not like, you know, hey, I see you're here and we do this and you do that.
No, not really. So it kind of just depends. Like, because a lot of the inbound is like, I mean, sometimes we route to support, so that's one thing. We get a lot of just like that should have come through support, so we just automatically route them to support. Some other ones are like, they're already a customer, so like they're trying to upgrade, so then we basically like kick them through one process. So there is like some lead routing aspects to it too.
How do you realize that they're a customer?
We just have all the internal data. So it's like
hit some other database to double check that. I was going to be another question. Sorry, I don't mean to.
No, you're good. This is great. So yeah, inside of the
like duplicate requests from someone again that you've already maybe disqualified, right? Or
yeah.
Do you have a disqualification list somewhere that it's hitting?
Yeah. So I mean, all this is stored in Salesforce because like when they come through, so there's like the flow that revenue operations manages, and then we have it. So we basically are like a side effect of it. So they come through this whole flow that like we don't own as a team, and then we catch a webhook for it. So like the full process happens of like the lead goes through Salesforce, and then we actually can like look up against Salesforce in real time and see like, yeah, if they've been flagged before or whatever, if they're a customer. We also have like a lot of first party data if they're a customer, right? Like how much web traffic do they have? Are they actually a good prospect for enterprise? If they are, we can like send an email. If not, we can like suggest an email that's like, hey, you should just stick on pro. Like it's gonna save. It's not gonna be worth for you to switch. So there's like a lot of nuance. This is like more just a super simplified version, but yeah, it's definitely evolving. But it's a big project, big undertaking. Yeah, Nathan.
I imagine you guys have a lot of inbounds every day. I don't need numbers, but I can just guess.
Yeah.
These evals are running on every single inbound that you get?
No. So basically, you can think of the eval as like, the eval is kind of close to like, it's where it lives is like our CI/CD process. So like whenever we are pushing a change to the code base, we want to run against the evals. So so like only inference runs for the new lead that comes through. Basically like when it comes through.
Okay.
Yeah.
What signal is giving you the best success rate for personalization on email drafting?
That's a good question. I feel like it's a moving target. We're also like we started with inbound and now we're kind of working towards outbound. Outbound is like funny because I feel like a year ago, if you like over personalize a message with AI, people would be like stoked. They're like, hell yeah, someone like took so much time to read my website. Now it's like, I get something that's like, I went to Georgia Tech and it's like, someone goes and they're like, hey, like, I love that you went to Georgia Tech AI. I'm like, dude, this is like totally AI. Like, no one says that. Like, that's so weird. So there's like this balance, right? Because I want someone to be like, hey, sick, you work at Vercel. Vercel's like in AI, like you might like this. Like, that's perfect. So we're trying to like tune it. It's very vibes though, but we're finding a good kind of middle ground where it's like, don't over personalize, but then like still personalize a little bit. Almost like Mad Libs, kind of like outreach sequences with like a little bit of sauce, you know? So, yeah. It's like, I don't know if that answers your question.
It does.
Yeah, very vibes.
It's an art form.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I feel like as an engineer, I'm like not as attuned to it. So it's constantly like meeting with, you know, outbound SDRs, AEs, a lot of sales leaders to be like, is this a good email? Because we'll think like this prompt's amazing and they're like, this is trash. Like you have to like start from ground zero. Yeah. Yeah.
So you've got offline evals that you're showing here. You mentioned brain trust.
Yeah.
Have you found online evals to be useful?
Yeah, I don't want to hate on Brain Trust because they're a big partner of Vercel. Brain Trust is great. Like we use Brain Trust heavily for like if you're familiar with V0. And that's great for V0 because like, you know, we have maybe like a dozen evals for something like this with a big data set. V0's got like thousands of evals, so it's like perfect for that. They're running stuff all the time. I prefer local evals for like our projects because they're more just internal. But I think it's just like a scale thing. But Brain Trust is like an amazing product, and like they're geniuses. Like they're such an amazing team. Yeah.
No one else has.
Yeah, go for it.
Do you think there's space for a real-time eval to actually determine the quality, since it doesn't seem like this is super latency sensitive?
Yeah, it's not. You're a good point. That's an interesting thought. We haven't thought about that. Probably, yeah. Kind of like scoring it in real time, just say like basically double checking it. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah. Some sort of confidence score, essentially.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We haven't really thought about that, but that's a great idea. Yeah. You're hired, man.
That'll be $5 million.
Should we get to the point where someone's like, oh, this lead is so good, it scores so high, we're going to pick up the phone and call them?
We, not necessarily. I mean, everything too, like the way our sales org works, it's all like through Zoom, right? So like, there's a lot of them that they'll just say like, this is great, we'll send them an email and then just try to book a call.
But you get too many leads.
Yeah, we get a lot of leads. There's definitely like the priority ones too. I mean, obviously like we went to AWS reInvent, the conference, and like kind of worked all those with this like outbound stuff we're testing, had a lot of good results, and I feel like those are a lot more like high impact.
Yeah.
I feel like inbound is definitely more like low hanging fruit for us to kind of take, and then now it's like we gotta actually solve the hard stuff, which is outreach. So yeah, haven't figured out yet, but we're hopefully will. Yeah.
What was the tech stack analyzer tool you mentioned?
So it's just custom built at Vercel, but it uses browser based. So basically, we're spinning up like a browser session in the cloud, and then we just like hit the website, and then we just take a ton of the metadata and look for all these different things.
So you're like
basically built with, yeah, but it's like they're always like super over eager. It's like they'll give you every tech stack imaginable. It's like you have Angular, Svelte, and React on your website at the same time, and then this is like way more like cut back. It's like
So does like the Vercel team that has to prevent scraping going on give you a call and say stop scraping Vercel websites?
No.
Or
so
maybe.
No. I mean, we sometimes run into like the turnstile stuff from Cloudflare. We're not scraping like super often. I'd say probably like once a week, because we have this tool and then we have an API, and then our data team uses the API. I think we use like Daxter for our like DAG flows and stuff, and then they just like kind of will nail it. But yeah, definitely like a lot of crawling, which is ironic, right? Because we like sell a bot protection product. But yeah. Did you have a question? Yeah.
Yeah. For the concept of LLM as a judge, how do you know whether to trust the judgment when the comparison is not a ground truth?
Yeah, that's a great question. There actually, the funny thing too is there are some like scores. So this uses Eval Lite uses something called auto evals, I believe. Yeah, I don't have any scores imported here, but it uses auto evals. So auto evals is like it's made by Braintrust. It's an open source package for basically creating scores, and they've got a lot of really good ones in there. They actually do have like a ground truth one, and it's like an LLM still, so you can't like fully trust it.
Is it ground truth?
But basically, like the way that I think you kind of combat this, that we do, is like you just run it a ton of times, and then kind of just like see how it does. Obviously, you're gonna get like some results that aren't amazing, but for the most part, it's like pretty good. For our stuff, like for this project specifically, for like the qualification, it's great because it's binary. So we can actually, like, the way that we evaluate it is we create like a confusion matrix. So we'll track false positive, false negatives, true positive, true negative, and then we like tweak it. Obviously, like we're biased. Like we don't want, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but it's like we don't want someone to come through that's like, and dequalify them when they are qualified. So like we're more likely to let Elon Musk come through than to not, because like what if, like that would be a massive miss on our end. Yeah,
Thank you.
But yeah, of course. Sweet. Well, thanks everyone. Last thing, little shameless promotion. Follow me on Twitter or on LinkedIn and find me around. I'm happy to chat AI stuff and nerd out.
Yeah, I came across Cameron on LinkedIn and have implemented some stuff you talked about in my workflow. So, yeah, cool. Thanks everybody for presenting. Another round of applause for our speakers. Yeah, tacos and food downstairs. More hanging out and chatting, and if you hit the road, safe driving home.
Yeah, I've hit him up. I'm connected with him. Oh, really? Yeah, and I was like,